Did anyone from the Northeast ever go on field trips that were like, I don't know, cool? People tell me all the time that they got to go on these crazy field trips. But if you're from New England, chances are you just went to some old mill and saw some sad teenage girl working her summer job, churning butter and reliving the horrors of pre-women's suffrage. It's not ideal. It's not ideal. I hear people say things like, when I was in 7th grade, we went to the Great Wall of China. You know how that makes me feel? That makes me feel terrible. And then I'm like, well, my friend scarfed a whole baggie of miscellaneous pills and started peeing blood at the Boston seaport. How about that? Well, I visited the White House and got to see Barack Obama's Oval Office. Oh yeah? Well, I got stung in the ass by 5 bees while I was at the Lake Compound soda machine. How about that? Well, I got to go to the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Well, my friend got left at Jekyll and Hyde restaurant in Manhattan, and the teacher couldn't find him, and we didn't have cell phones, so we had to go search the streets for him for like 2 hours, and then she had to bribe him with a gummy bear from FAO Schwartz to not tell the other teachers. How about that? Look, all I'm saying is that my public school teachers in Connecticut would rather violently murder me with a Yankee candle than even consider taking a trip to the Great Wall of China. Or maybe even near Chinese people in general. No, I'm kidding, but f all you private school kids. I don't want to talk about it. Where I'm from, they're very selective about the history that they want to teach us. Even in 2022, they're still telling the story that my town, which is called Milford, it used to be called Weppawag, they're still telling the story of a brave chief on Santaway who met the founding fathers and had a peaceful agreement just to give them all of their land. It was so peaceful. The tribes brought a bunch of goods to their new friends. They gave them food. They gave them wool. They gave them blankets. They gave them love. They even gave them full acceptance without any brute force into their land. And they did it for the price of nothing. They said, yeah, you guys can come in and give us smallpox and everything's gonna be great. You can destroy any history or burial grounds that we have and just put a Christian church right on top of it. It will be great. Everything will be perfect. And they're standing by that story. It's crazy. And how many times in my life have I gone to these mills where they say the same exact stories over and over again? It's actually insane. And like, I know my public school didn't have the proper funding it needed to go on field trips. I'm not ungrateful. I still had a lot of fun at these field trips, honestly. I did. Like, I went to FDR's mansion, for example. We documented the whole thing on film.
So how's the field trip so far?
I mean, it sucks. Yeah. It sucks. That's about it.
Yeah. It was great. One of my friends stepped in dog shit and they wouldn't let him in FDR's house. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful day. We got to see so many old artifacts in the house. It was amazing.
Even though you see like FDR's like pillows and like underwear and stuff.
And his Cheez-Its.
It's like used condoms. This is like probably the coolest thing you'll see out of everything.
My friend who we call McTits, he launched his YouTube channel that day. It was pretty special.
I got some major stickage right now.
What do you think of the field trip?
I think it's my nipples are hard.
Really?
A little.
Nice.
Is this video?
Yeah.
Follow me on YouTube.
Okay.
One of my friends was super stoned the whole trip. That was cool.
What do you think of the field trip?
I hate it.
You hate it? Why are you doing it questions?
Do you like that I'm on it?
What?
Do you like that I'm on it?
Can you stop talking like a pothead for like a minute? I don't even know what you're saying.
Burn.
We got yelled at a lot. That was fun.
It's one of the people who went up to the woman that works there and told them that this was stupid.
No. Wait.
We basically only stayed in Connecticut, but like sometimes we would go to Boston and go to the same science museum every single time we went. And that was a story I mentioned earlier about my friend with the miscellaneous bag of pills. This dude, all right, so we were going on this boat and this guy, like, who was one of my friends, he had a whole bag of miscellaneous pills. Like, they were all different colors, all different shapes, sizes, and he had no clue what any of them were. He just bought this bag from somebody. And then we were going on this ship and they were like frisking everybody. And he's like, what do I do? What do I do? I have this whole bag. And I was like, dude, I have no clue. And then right in front of my very eyes, we all saw it. This kid opened up the bag and just downed the entire bag of pills. That's actually really, really bad. And then the whole day we were just checking on him and making sure he was all good because we're like, dude, you might die. We went into this science museum and he's like, I gotta use the bathroom, whatever. He's in there for a while and he comes out and he's just like, his face is like beet red and he's like, I just pissed blood. I'm like, dude, you should be happy that blood's coming out of your dick rather than your eye sockets after the stunt you just pulled. And the only other time we left the state other than going to Boston was to New York one time, which is crazy because New York is under an hour drive from us. So the plan was we were supposed to go to the MoMA and then we were supposed to go out to eat at Jekyll and Hyde and then go to FAO Schwartz after, the giant, toy store that, you've seen it in movies and stuff like that. It's not open anymore, sadly. And my teacher was from Queens and she was pretty much like a character. Like, she had a very thick Queens accent, almost like Dimitri the Talentless Writer, the worst type of accent. But her big claim to fame was that she was friends with the Ramones. So she had a picture of the Ramones up in the room with her when she was like a teenager. And she was like all hyped that I was always wearing punk shirts and stuff because like I was the one person that she could flex that fact on and actually knew what she was talking about. So we walk from Jekyll and Hyde, the restaurant, to FAO Schwartz with all of us, you know, in a single file line. And for some reason, she does the head count when we get there. And she's counting. She's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and she's counting all the kids. Wait, we're missing a kid. We're missing a kid. It's Tariq. Where the hell is Tariq? Where's Tariq? Where's Tariq? Back then, we didn't have cell phones, so I don't even know how we got in contact with him. But we basically had to go all the way back to Jekyll and Hyde, and we saw him there. And she just totally left this poor kid there. And he's still one of my best friends to this day, and we still talk about the story all the time because she bought him a giant FAO Schwartz gummy bear, like one of those giant ones, like bigger than his head, just so that he wouldn't tell the other teachers and tell the principal, because she would have been if they found out that she did that. Like, that was a terrible thing to do. But in a way, I kind of like love that. You know what I mean? Like, that was pretty special to have that weird moment, and it made that field trip so memorable. Like, I will always remember that story, hopefully. And I can't say that about most of my field trips, to be honest with you. Like, we always stayed in the state, and like the state's very small. There's not a lot to do. And one of the big things we did was nature things, right? So the big trip that we were supposed to do in 8th grade was to this place called Nature's Classroom. I'm looking it up right now. Apparently it's in Massachusetts, which we would have left the state for. That would have been sick.
It is one thing to learn about slavery and its history, and it is quite another, sir, to have 7th graders have racial slurs, you know, hurled at them. I have to ask, what were you thinking?
But basically, it was like an overnight situation. So you would go there overnight and like hang there, and I don't know, like it was cool because it was like, oh, you get to have a sleepover with the girls, or like the girls were like, oh, boys are gonna be there sleeping over. Like, you don't share a room or whatever, but like you have cabins, and it's just like a cool experience, I guess, when you've never really had that. And like you get closer with your friends, you're in the woods with them, you're, you know, hanging out, telling campfire story. I don't know. This is what I imagined it to be. This is what I heard from the older kids. But the issue was that people kept having sex on the field trips, so they had to cancel it for the rest of us. And if you saw me in 7th or 8th grade, there is no shot that I would have ever had sex in either back then. There's no way. There's no way. So they ruined it for all of us. They ruined it for even the ones that were lame and weird, that would never do that at Nature's Classroom, like me. So that was a huge bummer. And then otherwise, it was just going on trips to like lake compounds, which was like the amusement park that was in the state of Connecticut, up in Bristol, Connecticut. I swear to God, you'd go to lake compounds and like every roller coaster was falling apart. Like, for some reason, they boast the fastest and oldest wooden roller coaster. And like, yeah, that thing is shit. Like, when you go on there, it is scary. Like, I remember I went there on a band field trip, and like all these girls were trying to convince me, like, oh, just go on this ride, just go on this ride. And they were like making fun of me. And like, I was like, I don't want to go on it. And they're like, come on, just go on it. And I'm still friends with some of those girls, and they will tell you that that is 100% true. I was literally crying as they forced me to get on the worst roller coaster you will ever imagine in your fucking life, and acting like I was the crazy one. I didn't want to die at age 12. Another nature field trip we went on, it was like in the woods, and basically they put us in a canoe, and we're like, scoop up these algae samples, then we're gonna take you to a science lab, and you're gonna look under a microscope. Like, that is not fun. How is that fun? It is a learning experience, yes, and I know that's the point of school, but like, how are these kids going to Yosemite and the White House and all these places? Yeah, I'm stuck in the freaking Hartford sewer system on my hands and knees getting fucking shit water in my mouth. And the worst part is, even though all of our history lessons were flawed and that we would go to these places that would be like, literally, as I said earlier, like teenage girls just churning butter for what, free probably? Like, there's no shot they were paying them, right? Like, how could they? And then you see these like misogynist pilgrim men who are just like loving it way too much. Yes, churn thy butter, bitch. I mean, Wendy, churn thy butter. And because I think we were underfunded, we didn't go to Sturbridge Village or any of those places. Like, but luckily my parents did take me to like Plymouth and stuff like that. Like, my parents were the real MVPs because they showed me the cool shit in New England, you know, like the water parks and the beaches and the lakes. But my school just insisted on teaching me the worst parts of history. And I promise you, if you're from New England, you've had the same experience. Anyways, thank you for watching this weird video. It had no direction. I just rambled, and I'm just trying to do more like less edit intensive videos to kind of fill in for the big meaty videos. So drop a like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Basically, I wanted to see if I could turn one of those 1-minute rants I do in shorts into a longer form video, just to continue, you know, the storytelling aspects I love to show on this channel, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I'll keep doing it, but let me know if you liked it. I just thought it was funny. Yeah, I love you all so much. Thank you so much for the support, and make sure to tune in next week, or else.